Hi guys, good morning. It's Erin from Ginger's Florals. If you don't already know me, I have a small flower farm in Pacific Northwest in Washington State, Zone 8B. Today I want to take you along. I want to make a winter wreath. It's the holiday season. Lots of people are making holiday wreaths. And I love that. I already made one. I gave it away. It had dried flowers and it was beautiful. I want to try and see if I can't make one that will last beyond the holidays. Yesterday, last night, or the night before last, we had a pretty good windstorm and it knocked down some fir branches, and some cedar. So I decided that I would go out, do some foraging, cut some things out of the garden and make a wreath. So like I said, I've got fir boughs that I've cut down to a good size. Some cedar branches that I've also cut down that came out of the woods. And then I've got some dusty miller that I cut out of the garden that I'm hoping will help transition to winter. I also have some eucalyptus that was still out in the field that I cut a few branches of. And then we'll see if I use them or not, but I have a little bit of artemisia and some sage actually that may or may not go into this. I've also collected a couple of ribbons. I know that I'm going to use this brown ribbon with the dark brown edges. It's really pretty. It's simple. I think it'll transition nicely for winter rather than just the holidays. And I've also got some red satin ribbon that we'll see, I might put with the brown up until after the holidays, and then I could take this part off to transition it fully straight to just a winter wreath. And hopefully, depending on the weather and if it holds long enough, leave it out there until early spring, when I will transition it. I'll make another wreath that has more spring colors and more beautiful things then. So I'm glad you're here. Let's get started and I'll show you exactly how I do it. So I do want to show you, I've showed before, but I want to show you how I attach everything to the wreath, to the form. So what I do, here, let me put it down a bit. What I do is I start with this 22 gauge paddle wire. I'll just pull some out and then I thread it through the cage, through the wires, or the frame, excuse me. Just a couple back and forth and then twist it off. So you want to make it pretty tight, but not so tight that you break your form. And then this wire is not going to get cut until the very end. It'll just keep wrapping round and round all the bunches until you get to the very end, and then you'll cut it off and tie it off. And I'll show you that when we get there. Okay, so I always start with one of my pieces. The fir is thicker, so I'm going to start with that one. Then I'm going to lay down some eucalyptus on top of it, and I'm going to try some dusty miller. And once I like the look of the bunch that I made, I'll set it down right on top of where that wire is, and then I'll wrap it a couple of times. And like I said, this stuff you'll want to pull it pretty tight because most of this will desiccate a bit while it's hanging, and it'll shrink. So it needs to be pretty tight, otherwise you could have stuff that falls out. Okay, do you see that? I'll show you one more, or maybe a couple more, and then I'll just do the rest of them, and then I'll catch you up at the end. So again, I'll take a bunch of the fir, that's my base, and then a piece of eucalyptus. It smells so good. And then this time I think I'll grab a piece of artemisia and a piece of, a piece of cedar, eucalyptus, and then artemisia. And this time I'm going to lay it down so that the bunch faces out. So the first one laid straight down, this one's laying out. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing with the wire, wrap it around, go a couple of times, and pull it tight. And I'm going to cut some of these long branches off or stems off. You don't have to. You can do it all at the end, but I'm going to. Okay, I'll show you one more. And this one we're going to go to the inside of the form. So here's another piece. I want some more cedar, I think, because it's beautiful. Some cedar, and then another piece of eucalyptus. And this time we'll go back for more dusty miller. You see the fan shape. You want to keep them, once you've picked a size for your fan, you kind of want to keep them about the same size. Otherwise it can be lopsided. So now this one's going to point in. I'm going to go down below the last one again. Point it in. The other thing to be aware of is, depending on how thick you make it, you could fill in your hole. And if you want it to still look like your wreath in the end, be mindful of that, and don't necessarily want to make them too big. Okay, so that one went in. So we started here, the second one went out, and then this one went in. And it's starting to fill in beautifully. So from here, I'm going to speed it up and get the rest of these on here. Okay, now that we've gotten to the end, so there's just this little spot back up here to do. There's a couple different ways you can do it. You can either just tie it off as it is, and well, there's a few different ways. You can tie it off. You can make individual little bunches and tie them off inside of here. You could use a hot glue gun to do the same thing, or you can just use some ribbon to fill in the gap. I think I'm gonna tie it off. I'll show you how I do that, and then I'll probably make one or two little bunches to kind of fill it in, and then I'll do the bow. So I pull some out, cut it off, and then gently flip it over, and then just find a couple good spots to wire it through to tie it off. And as you can see, this is the first time of this whole process that we cut the wire. So the whole thing wraps all the way around. Okay. It's looking pretty good so far. Okay, so I'm going to cut some pieces of wire. I'll make a couple little bunches, and then I'll wire those in and work on the bow. Okay, so there's one here, one there. So just a little piece, same as before, but smaller. It's a rainy day out there, so this is a perfect day to do this kind of thing. So, cedar, pine, eucalyptus, dusty miller. It's so pretty. I love it. So then I'll take my wire that I cut and I will wrap it around and twist it off. And then it leaves me with these little tails. Can you see that? These little tails that I can find a good spot in there. So I think, pull everything else out of the way. I'll put one right here. I do the same thing as we just did with the rest of it. And put it in there and wrap it and twist it on the back side. That's that. Can you see it? Looks pretty good. It's hard to completely tell. And like I said, you can always take a glue gun to adjust or trim things off or what have you. So that spot that we just finished, this spot right here, I'm still going to use that spot for the ribbon. Okay, let's flip it around and see what it looks like. Here she's all finished. I could probably do some trimming here in the middle to open up that hole a bit and even it out, but I really like it. The cedar and the eucalyptus gives a really nice kind of blue gray, green, and with the dusty miller, and it'll look really nice all the way through winter. It doesn't, I mean, it's a wreath, so there's kind of the Christmas vibe, but it doesn't scream it. And my front door is kind of a tealy blue, so the green and red doesn't really go anyway. But yeah, that's the project. What do you think? I'd love to hear your opinion. Hey guys, I'm so thankful that you came along with me in building this wreath. It's just right for me. It's not perfect. It's a little wonky in different areas. I hope that you learned something from it, and if you were inspired or just enjoyed watching it, I hope you consider subscribing to my channel. Otherwise, I'm gonna go put this on my front door and Thank you for coming, and I'll see you in the next video.